Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. We have a great episode for you today. I'm here with my fantastic co-host, Gabriel Pickup, and we're going to talk about recruiting news for the Scarlet Knights, and we're going to talk about the running back room today. And if you like the show, hit that like and subscribe button, and we're going to post the link in the chat if you'd like to call in. So, Gabe, you got some great news for us. Take it away.
Yeah, the fourth rendition of Pick Updates, and this is going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and hear Adam and I go in-depth for each piece of news, have our agreements and our disagreements. Let's get into it. Do you want to start off positive or negative?
Let's start off with the good.
All right, so there's 11 things of news. I'm going to go with the best news because we're still in this race, and then I'll leave you with, unfortunately, a bummer. But Tavion Branch, 4-star lineman, who we are still in the running for, will make his commitment announcement on Wednesday, June 11th. And I'm optimistic about this because, like I said, down to 5 schools, and these schools are powerhouses. We got Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Penn State, and Rutgers. Number one power lifter in Pennsylvania at his weight or higher. 247. This is why I'm optimistic. 247 lists his interest in Rutgers and Oklahoma as warm, and the other 3 schools has it listed as cool. He's from Taylor, Pennsylvania, which is by Scranton. So commuting would be easier here than Oklahoma. Obviously, Penn State would be slightly easier, but like I said, his interest in Penn State is listed as cool, not warm.
That's a very interesting update. I see Jason O. Hi, Jason. Welcome to the show. He said he's going to see if they let him take an official visit. They seem like they have a great time. Jason O., 100% right. These recruits, when they go to Rutgers, it seems like Greg Schiano and the staff is giving them a message that they really, really like, and it's attracting some 4-stars like the offensive lineman from Georgia and like some really elite players from North Carolina. Now, this recruit, Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and we're in the running. This is impressive stuff. So Greg Schiano is doing something right, and Rutgers is going to be a surprise team, it seems, in 25, 26, and going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, that's why I'm optimistic, because if we're in the running with these big-name schools, even if we don't get these guys, it shows that we're at that level when it comes to recruiting, where we're not to be taken lightly. We're here to steal your guys. We're here to steal your commits. We're here to steal guys before they even think of your school. And that goes for, Nittany Lions. That goes for Sooners. That goes for Seminoles. That goes for Spartans. If your school is a powerhouse school, just know that we are there and we can steal your guy. And I don't say that, what's it called, with a grain of salt. I say that based on Schiano and his ideal recruiting class that we are getting from 2026.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I went to Bergen Catholic High School in Oradell, New Jersey, that was from 1989 to 1993. At that time, what was Rutgers? How was Rutgers perceived? Rutgers was perceived as a pretty good school and a school that recruits went to if they couldn't get any major D1 offers. Well, my friends, the culture and the times have changed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Rutgers is competing for the 4-stars, the 5-stars. We got CJ Campbell coming in from Florida Atlantic. We've got a top 10 transfer portal class. We've got a top 20 recruiting class for 2026. So Rutgers, in 2025, the academics have improved substantially. It's a great education, but the football program has mirrored that change and is now competing for the top athletes. Got to give credit to Coach Schiano in his second stint. And I got to tell you, Rutgers is going to compete in the Big Ten, and the future looks bright.
I'm saying 2027 onward, we're looking at a consistent top 5 appearance in the Big Ten.
Yes, and Jason O says they go to Tony DiNapoli in Times Square on Friday, Ocean Resort in Long Branch on Saturday, and New Brunswick, usually Cuisines for Seafood. I've been there. So I got to tell you, those are 3 great restaurants, 3 great locations, Times Square, Long Branch, and New Brunswick. And, of course, a visit to Seaside Heights wouldn't be a bad thing adding that on. But, hey, I digress. Take it away, Gabe.
Yeah, so That's the good news. I have some bad news. We should probably have been looking a little harder for wide receivers next year. Although we do have some good wide receivers. We just lost one that would be, quote, in the mix, according to NJ.com. And it is another Toure. Fama Toure suffered a season-ending injury on the first set of downs in the spring game. They call it a lower body injury, unspecified where exactly. But the news just came out this afternoon. Coach Shiano, and you might like this. You'll think it's a jab at first, but I mean, it's a compliment, undoubtedly. But Coach Shiano said he looked like he walked out of a Giants camp before his injury. So it's a huge blow for a guy that we know was supposed to be in the mix. Whether it's fourth receiver or fifth receiver, he would be in there for some plays. And we were talking about losing depth last year. You don't want to start off losing your backups because then when the starters get hurt, who's going to be the new starter? The backup to the backup or someone from off the streets. So it's a tough blow. We lose another Toure. We lose two Toures both on the spring game day. And that's unfortunate.
Well, our sympathies go out to Toure for this injury. We wish him the best going forward, and hopefully he'll recover and become a productive, football player. But again, you're still at Rutgers, and Rutgers is a place that gives you a great education. It develops students and players extremely well. And also, I got to give a shout out to the state of New Jersey, where I'll be returning to in just over a couple of weeks. New Jersey's a great place to be. There's a lot to do there. There's a great experience there with the people, the education, and I think that when you combine that entire package of the development, sending players to the NFL, we see Monangai and others going to the NFL, great education in a great state. You have a package there that's really starting to become attractive to these high-level recruits, and that's a credit to Shiano and his staff and a really, really good harbinger of good things to come for the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'll make sure to let NJ.com know to put that in their next article because it's kind of selfish of them not to include you coming back to New Jersey. But I'll make sure to let them know.
When I come back, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to go to my hometown of Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, spend time with my mom, get some great northern New Jersey pizza. I'm going to go to the city. Yes, I'm going to go to Seaside Heights for a few days. And I'm going to go to East Hampton, New York. And I'm just going to enjoy the East Coast because there's no better place to be.
But circling back to this Fama Toure news, we mentioned, after the spring game during that episode, Fama Toure actually won the Mark Mills Second Effort Award, and that is dedicated to the most improved offensive player in spring. So he showed great leaps. Like I said, Shiano said he came out of a Giants camp. That's how he looks. So it's a tough blow because he really, if we're talking about a guy who's most improved, he could have been a top 3 receiver by the end of the season, for all we know. Ben Black is looking phenomenal too. But if he's improved as much as everyone says he has, then he really could have been special this year. But here's the good news. It doesn't seem like Shiano or the rest of this staff, honestly, is the type to dispose of a player because of an injury. If they see that you're committed and you're staying long-term, they're going to commit back to you. So I think Toure still has a place here moving forward outside of this year.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Looking at it, generally, what does this do to our wide receiving core? What's the impact?
Well, the impact is we have DT Sheffield, KJ Duff, and Ian Strong, and Ben Black as a wild card. But outside of that, if one guy goes down, then all of a sudden we can't run 4 wides. Or if one guy goes down, then who's going to be the slot guy on 3 wide receiver sets if one of them goes down? So it really thins our core. We only have one real backup, and he would still be playing in 4 vertical sets.
So this comes back to what we've been talking about show after show, which is Rutgers' success is going to depend on having the depth and avoiding the injuries.
Vernon Allen did have a good spring game. So, he had the 5 catches. I think it was 98 yards, which is cool, especially when our defense was still starting for the most part. But it's one stint, and he's a freshman, so we'll have to see how that goes moving forward.
So it kind of sounds like you're saying the wide receiver room is intact, but we can't have any more injuries.
Basically, if we have one more injury, I think that not that you can kiss the season goodbye, but you have to kiss a lot of formations goodbye. And if we're down 7 with a minute left, you have very limited options, as opposed to, we're talking a few weeks ago how many weapons Ethan has. All of a sudden, losing one guy, you're talking about we can't lose anyone else, or we're not going to have enough guys on offense.
Yeah, and that would be really unfortunate, because what we've been talking about on many shows, we talk about Ethan Kaliakmanis having an explosive wide receiving core, 3 running backs, which we'll talk about, that really can contribute and stay fresh throughout the game. An injury like this hurts, but I think one more injury is when it becomes serious and starts to compromise the vision that Rutgers has for its offense. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's wish the best to Teray.
Yeah.
Jason O says, hopefully Teray stays after this year, but I'm not sure. After the injury, he might need immediate playing time. I tend to agree with that. Injuries can do a lot to a player, and when they come back, I'm not sure he's going to want to stay, but let's wish him the best and hope that he does.
Well, I know he has a place here. I think it's up to him whether he stays or not.
Yeah.
I can see, Jason, I see what you mean, because you look at the rest of this core moving forward. DT is really the only wide receiver that would be leaving this year, or after this year. Ian Strong would be our number 1 receiver next, or in 2026 rather. KJ Duff is only a sophomore. Teray's only a sophomore, but so is Ben Black. And then we have a lot of freshman wide receivers too, like Michael Thomas III, Vernon Allen III, who I said had a fantastic spring game, Jordan Houston, and much more. But you just don't want some of these freshmen to be getting snaps early on if they don't need to be. So that's why this does blow.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we wish him the best. And before we get to the remainder of the recruiting updates, Sports Talk with Austin is here. Says we're looking sharp for our pick updates. I agree that I am looking sharp. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you were looking sharper than I, although I did get a new haircut.
No, the truth is Gabe is looking sharp too, but I got a haircut, and that is
why. I got a haircut.
Well, and your haircut looks very nice, but I just feel like mine's a little more stylish. For a 40-year-old guy, I'm not doing too bad. For a 25-year-old guy, you're on your way, man.
You can have your style. You can have your style. I'll have the accuracy of reporting.
Austin, I'm not going to take that as an insult. Austin says I could play wide receiver. No, I could not play wide receiver. Where I could play, however, is running back, because I'm tough and I don't go down easily. Or that was the case back in 1989. I'm not so sure it applies today. But let's head up with those recruiting updates. What else do you have for us?
We can't prove you wrong, Adam. So I'll choose to agree with you for now. And if anyone proves me wrong, then I'll just blame it on you.
It's called teamwork.
So I think you could actually be a phenomenal tight end. And speaking of tight ends, tight end DJ Howerton commits to Rutgers from, I'll let you guess which state. If you had to guess which state and what is the theme of states, go ahead and give a guess here, because you might be able to get it.
Georgia?
Close.
Alabama?
Little north of Georgia.
Tennessee?
Ooh, you're close. Northeast of Tennessee.
South Carolina?
One more up.
North Carolina.
Yeah, there we go.
5 tries, but he gets it.
No, you're good. I say that because it's interesting, right? 3-star recruit, but like I said, he's a tight end, but he was recruited hardest by defensive assistant coach Scott Vallone per 247 Sports. And I say interesting because obviously they wouldn't work together too much unless it's full scrimmages, really, or situationally. But Vallone has recruited Tyrell Simpson from Leland, North Carolina, and Brady Owens from Arlington, Virginia. So that mid-east or southeast coast area, it seems like he's steadily recruiting.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say is, we love Greg Schiano. He's done a fantastic job for Rutgers. I also got to give a lot of credit to his assistant coaches and the staff.
For sure.
Because they're making inroads into North Carolina. It seems like they're making inroads into North Carolina that are substantial. They got to recruit from Georgia. They're recruiting people from around the country, and they're getting some of them. And the recruits that they have had over the last couple of weeks shows 2 things. Number 1, people outside of New Jersey are paying attention. Number 2, when they come for these on-site visits, they're doing something good. And I think they're giving them a recipe that says you're going to develop as a person, as a player with a shot at the NFL. You're going to leave Rutgers, all right, with a future ahead of you in football and in life. And I think that's a credit to that Greg Schiano and that staff.
I don't know if North Carolina, like the school, is just getting all 5 stars and 4 stars. but it feels like a lot of these guys would want to go play for Coach Belichick, and they're choosing to come up north.
Yeah, I think this says one thing that's very important. So, a 3-star athlete coming out of high school, whether they develop into a competitive Division I athlete at schools like Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Florida, it really depends on the fit with the culture. And I think that Coach Schiano and his staff are the type of coaches that are among the best at developing players. And I think the players are resonating with that message, with the culture, and with the standard that Rutgers is establishing as wanting to be a Big Ten champion, make that playoff, even contend for a national championship. I mean, with President Tate on board from LSU, we know LSU is a university that's filled with championships and a championship mindset. So from the top to the bottom, Rutgers has the right culture.
Yeah, and Jason, you're 100% right. You told us last week about Valone doing his thing in North Carolina, and he keeps proving you right. DJ Howerton, so he goes to Grimsley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina, 6'4", 220. So hopefully that means he can develop into a blocking tight end.
Yeah, and I think when I think of 6'4", 220, I think put 20 pounds of muscle on him and get some really important in-game experiences as a freshman. I'm a big fan of getting those freshmen in, particularly in games like against Norfolk State, when I think that Rutgers will dominate, to get them acclimated to playing at a different level and to really begin the development from day one, which Rutgers does.
Yeah, hopefully against Norfolk State or Purdue. I know when I was playing modified football in middle school, we would have a fifth quarter so that all the backups could play. Hopefully we kind of get some fifth quarter action out of the games against Purdue or Norfolk State, even Miami of Ohio, where you can kind of play around with some sets, try some things out with like 8 minutes to go. Hopefully.
Are you saying that you were the star of the fifth quarter in your modified football league?
So I was starting on the return team as a blocker, but I only started like a handful of games at right guard. But for the most part, I was the fifth.
I bet you got penalized a lot, right? Holding.
I only got one holding. See, I knew that I belonged. I knew that I belonged in modified football when I pancaked a guy twice my size.
Hey, I'll give you credit for that. So, hey, you deserve it. So, one thing I've been noticing is that Rutgers is landing recruit after recruit after recruit. Anybody else they've?
You're gonna love this one. This is one of the most exciting instances for me, and that is Michael Dukes. Sick name for a running back. He flips from Toledo to Rutgers, from Detroit, number 1 back in all of Michigan.
Wow.
6'1", 195. So he's listed as a 3-star, which you'd think there'd be a 4-star running back in Michigan. But he's a top 30 Michigan product regardless.
Number 1 running back in Michigan coming to Rutgers. So we've got Rutgers going to Michigan, getting recruits, flipping somebody from Toledo, North Carolina, Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan is probably a top 3 football state, maybe top 5. It's definitely top 5.
Yeah, and Gabe, I kind of feel like last season, the 2024 season, I feel like it had a transformative effect on Coach Schiano. Because I think Schiano knew last year this team could have 9, even 10 wins. And when that didn't happen because of the injuries, and, unfortunately because of some substandard play, I think Schiano said, never again is this going to happen. Never again under my watch, under my second stint. My reputation, my love for Rutgers, and my intent to make this a national program will never fall prey to what happened last year. And I think that's why you see this drive to get players from around the country and this message of we are going to beat the Ohio States. Our standard is to win a national championship, not to win 8 games. And I think when you combine that with the coaching and development and the education at Rutgers, you have a recipe for success that can rival Ohio State, that can rival Georgia. And, so it's kind of like what happened last year may seem negative, but the positives that are going to come from it are going to be immeasurable.
Absolutely. And with these guys, I like to go into their statistics and their accolades in high school, but we just got so many guys this past week that I'm keeping it to what you, the viewer, would like to know. Because every guy that comes from high school into college is going to have amazing numbers in high school. So with that being said, let's get to know some more of these guys and what makes them stand out outside of statistics. Next up is 3-star safety / nickel. That is how he describes himself. Latrell Noel, which is a tongue twister of a name. He also commits. You're gonna like you want to know his 40-yard dash? I'll give you one hint. It's better than Kyle Monanga's.
I'm gonna guess a 4.5.
If you round to the nearest 10th, you are correct. It's a 4.53.
Wow. Now that's Division I caliber.
Yes, it is.
That's the kind of safety we need, against the Ohio States, the Penn States.
Yes.
Oregon.
And guess what? He's class of 2025.
Oh, man.
So he's coming.
Where's he from?
He is. Oh, I forgot to include that note, I see. That's a shame. You know what?
It doesn't matter where he's from, because a 4.53, we welcome them from all 50 states and all countries, for that matter.
You know what? I owe it to you to do my research now, since I didn't do it beforehand. Latrell Noel is from Loomis Chaffee Prep School, and that is in Naples, Florida.
Oh, this is a great, great sign. So they're going to Florida. They're going to Georgia. They're going to North Carolina. They're going to Michigan. And they're getting people. And they're getting a Penn State transfer, too.
And guess what? He's not the only guy from Florida I'm going to be talking about today.
No, there you go. Let's go ahead.
But yeah, 4.53. That's definitely, if you go for a speed competition, I think DT is number one, but Latrell is up there.
DT's a 4.5. And a 4.53, honestly, the distinction between that, it takes, if you're throwing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, it takes 0.4 seconds to go to the plate. So a difference in 0.3 is probably a few inches. But, one thing about these 40-yard dashes is that it's all great to have speed, but you also got to have quickness. You also got to have route integrity and good instincts. So I like what I'm seeing, though. And hopefully when Coach Shiano comes on the show, he's going to give us more in-depth insights into where these recruits fit in what seems to be a Rutgers program that is on the rise.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, right? With every strength, there's a counterpart weakness. And so the glass half empty guy would say, oh, he ran a 4.53 40-yard dash, but he's 6'3", 195. So is he a little too light? I think that's not the case. I think he's just super quick and shifty. And at the end of the day, it takes a speed guy to get past our linebackers, to get past our secondary. So they're going to be lighter themselves. It's not going to be too many Derrick Henrys in college football that he's going to have to tackle.
Now, and one thing about linebackers in today's college football, system is that they're fast. They're big and they're fast. But, typically they're around 4.6 to 4.7. So what we really need is not only people who run 4.5s, but we need players who are shifty. And that's one of the things that Monangai had. He was able to see the field, and he had that intangible. And I think that that's something that Rutgers can develop. And, from my understanding of how Coach Shiano coaches, he's tough, and he starts from day one about really pushing these kids to be their best. And that's a good sign for them. Jason says Noel is the type of kid Shiano might be tempted to try at wide receiver at 6'3". What do you think about that?
See, I'm thinking more of the Cliff Kingsbury style offense where he might be in wildcat formation and given the ball in the backfield. Sure. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the wide receiver core for a few plays a game, especially given the Toure loss, because, like I said, he is He is coming this next year, so it's possible. But I feel like he's got to stick to what he knows is best for Noel, why he's here. And the fact that Noel has himself listed at 2 positions and they're both defensive, it sounds like he really does want to stick on that side of the football.
Absolutely. So I have a feeling you've got more.
Yeah. Got, let's see. I just finished my 6th point. I have 5 more left for this 4th rendition of Pick Up Dates. All right. Linebacker Justin Edwards, who is also sharing a name with Philadelphia 76er Justin Edwards. Let's hope that we have a little more winning this year than the Sixers did last year. Justin J.J. Edwards is what he goes by. He chooses Rutgers over Kentucky, Miami, Missouri, Syracuse, and 11 other schools.
All right. So, when you look at these recruits, one of the good indicators of, their potential, I wouldn't say a good indicator, but one indicator is where other schools were recruiting them. Miami was recruiting this guy. Kentucky was recruiting this guy. And Syracuse, who landed Kyle McCord last year, who threw for the most yards of any quarterback, and he chose Rutgers. Once again, Rutgers is doing something right that other schools aren't doing. Now, it's not like Rutgers is paying these kids millions of dollars like a Texas is paying Arch Manning or Florida's paying DJ Lagway. So something about what they're doing is working, and that bodes well for the Scarlet Knights.
I think, a lot of these guys have to know each other, given the fact that they're coming from the same states. They've probably played against each other. And so seeing this domino effect of guys coming to Rutgers might be inspiring some of their peers.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get to interview them when we go to Shea State next year, and we're going to be reporting on site, particularly at that Iowa game, the turning point in the Rutgers season where the fork in the road comes, and we defeat the Hawkeyes and go ascend into a top contender in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I was saying these guys are from similar areas. He's also from Florida, but he's on the other side of it. He's from Edgewater High School in Orlando. And we got to play him at outside linebacker, I assume, because he's 6'2", 205. Not quite enough beef up the middle, in my opinion.
Well, one thing about those linebackers, they got to have great lateral speed and great, their eyes. They have to be able to see the play, fill those gaps, and we'll see. Because it always comes down to those intangibles. If you're a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, do you have those intangible skills that, are going to elevate you to the next level? It seems like with the coaching at Rutgers and the type of players that are committing, the answer to that is yes.
Yep, I agree. And so I have 2 more recruits and then 2 other pieces of news that aren't about recruits. But the second to last recruit is Riel Kelly, 3-star free safety, has committed. And what's funny about him is my Knicks just lost, so maybe this is why it's on my mind still, but I can't help but think he looks just like Miles McBride. And if he can play defense like McBride, then he is more than welcome in the Scarlet Knight Nation. Now, he is 6'3", 180, so a little on the light side, from Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati.
Okay, this great state of Ohio. I actually got my law degree from Ohio State, so always like our friends from Ohio. One of the questions I always have about these recruits is what high school did they go to and what level did that high school play at? Like, for example, New Jersey, Bergen Catholic is a parochial A Group 4 school versus, say, my hometown, Hasbrook Heights High School, which has good players, but is a Group 1 school. So, when you're looking at these recruits, what types of high schools are they going to? Would you say competitive ones?
Oh, yeah, especially from Pennsylvania, the ones that I can speak to. Right around the corner from me is LaSalle College High School, where 2 of the top 10 recruits in Pennsylvania will be joining Rutgers. It's from right over there. I can't quite see it. There's some bushes in the way, but it's one of the 2 top high schools in the state, and 2 players from LaSalle College High School, which is elite competition, breeding elite quarterbacks, elite offensive weapons, defensive weapons. They're going to be coming to Rutgers. Now, when it comes to these other states, I can't quite say. I can only speak on, how they're ranked in high school. And so far, every guy we've covered is a 3-star. So that's great to hear. That's all potential, right? 3-star is the intangibles, the coachables, the potential. That's where it is. It's 3 stars. 4 stars and up, they're supposed to be rather diamonds, but 3 stars.
The number 1 recruit from Michigan is something. I mean, it's like in New Jersey when you look at high schools that recruits are coming from. If they're coming from a Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco, St. Joe's, a Seton Hall Prep, these kids have been battle tested at the high school level because they're facing tough competition each week. They're in close games against athletes that can match their physicality, and that's what we're looking for. So it seems like from from your neck of the woods, that's
Yeah.
who we're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And last guy here I want to cover is Jermaine Polk, self-proclaimed quarterback hunter, commits, which that is a sick nickname to have. Quarterback hunter, 3-star defensive tackle from St. Francis de Sales in Philadelphia.
Now, St. Francis is a good school. I know St. Francis.
I believe that's the other school. There was a freaking mosquito here. My bad. I believe that's the other school that is right up there with LaSalle College for pretty much all of Pennsylvania.
Excellent.
So we're getting guys from these top programs. None of these commits are in Jersey.
Well, that's what I was saying before. Now New Jersey gives you a lot of solid recruits, but New Jersey is not going to supply you with enough recruits, of course, that are going to make the team. We're talking Florida now, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. And how is Rutgers able to do it when they don't have the type of NIL that a Texas, Ohio State, Michigan has? They're doing it because they're offering these kids something, and it goes back to the intangibles. They're offering them something that is going to benefit them as players and hopefully getting to the NFL, but also in life. And that's why Rutgers University is becoming and is now ranked among the top 50 universities in the United States. That's an attractive recipe for a player who wants to become a good football player and a great person. Jason O says he prefers public school recruits over the parochial schools. More NJ kids make the NFL from public schools. That's probably true, Jason. And at the end of the day, what I look for is what's the level that you played at in high school, and what's your film look like, and how do you fit with the culture. So certainly a lot of kids from public schools are a great fit for Rutgers.
So do you think that all of these out-of-state recruits are going to help us get some guys that we've missed out on in the past, like the Saquon Barkleys or the Jonathan Taylors that, they're from the area, they're from North Jersey, born and raised, even though Saquon moved to Pennsylvania later on, that they were just too big for the program at the time. Do you think that these out-of-state recruits are going to help with that in the future, that we don't miss out on a top New Jersey recruit?
1,000%. And I've said this months ago, and I think you might recall this when I said, once we start getting a couple of 5 stars, some 4 stars, it's going to have a domino effect, because then other 4 stars and 5 stars are going to say, hey, going to Rutgers over at Georgia or Ohio State or Bama, is something that is legit. And when these kids from Florida or Georgia or Ohio or Michigan, Pennsylvania go on an on-site recruiting visit at Rutgers, they're going to have somebody from their home state saying, hey, here's why I came here and here's what it can do for you. So I think that absolutely it enhances the attractiveness of Rutgers and the quality of players that they will obtain.
So do you think that this is sort of the widest variety of out-of-state commits? And also with Jared Smith, you referenced him earlier when you said the 4-star offensive lineman from Georgia.
Yeah.
Do you think that he is the most significant commit that Rutgers has had in recent history?
Yes, I think he's absolutely the most significant recruit, and I'll tell you why. I live in Georgia, and I will tell you that I live about an hour and a half from Athens. Kirby Smart has a hold on Georgia. You don't get an offensive lineman from Georgia who says no to the Bulldogs. Now, we have had something that is a complete anomaly. Somebody who I'm sure Georgia recruited hard, but decided to go to New Jersey, a state he's probably never been to. Okay? He decided to go out of state, start his education somewhere else where he's not going to be close to family or friends. Well, something must have pulled him there.
Yeah.
And when the first domino falls, then it becomes easier to get the rest. Now, Jason O says 26 is a down year in New Jersey. I would agree with that.
That's true.
The 27 class will bounce back in a big way, but this year's class is going to be mostly out of state. Yeah. One thing I've noticed about recruits in New Jersey is that Ohio State and Notre Dame have made significant inroads in New Jersey. And for Bergen Catholic, we've got a couple of recruits going to Notre Dame. and Ohio State. So how do you counter that? Well, I think that there's two ways you counter it. Number one, you got to tell the players and be honest with them. Hey, you're going to play sooner at Rutgers and still have the same points as the NFL. And number two, we're going to develop the whole person here. Okay, Ohio State is not a better academic school than Rutgers. It's not even close. But it's not just about the education. It's about you can do everything you might want to do at Ohio State at Rutgers, and you can do it while playing.
You know what I don't want to happen, or don't want to keep happening, rather, is we build these guys off and then send them out to play for someone else. I don't want that to keep happening. I think it's a bad habit, and that's why it hurt so bad when Mo Touré entered the portal, because I've seen it too much where we develop guys and we kind of train them into becoming the perfect player for somebody else.
Yeah, so that's why it goes back to kind of what I feel about these 4 stars and 5 stars. If you recruit a 4-star and a 4-star chooses, if a 4-star chooses Rutgers over, say, Miami, Syracuse, Bama, Notre Dame, they're not leaving. That means they are committed. Now, if a 3-star comes to Rutgers and becomes a star, what's their incentive for leaving when Rutgers has finally established itself as a program that under Greg Schiano is going to send players to the NFL? What's the incentive to leave? I think the only players that you're going to see leaving are the ones who either value money over everything else, in which case we don't want them, or the ones that aren't getting playing time, in which case, fine, we wish them the best. But I don't see Rutgers as being in a position to lose great players, because great players that decide to come to Rutgers over the Georgias and the Alabamas are coming here for a personal reason. And that, I think, leads to a long-term commitment.
See, they're going to love it here at first, but do you think the scrutiny of, you could even say the New York media, because it's so damn close to New York, the New York and New Jersey, really the tri-state media, I mean, do you think that could get to some of these recruits? Because you look at talent, right? And when they go to the Midwest, or they go to the Southeast and they make a name for themselves, it's a very low pressure situation, unless it's like the Ohio States or the Michigans. But Rutgers, who's been mediocre for so many years now, they have a bar that is finally up here where it used to be down here for so long. So I'm just afraid that maybe if we get off to a rough start, that people might jump ship. I'm just hoping that's not the type of recruits that Schiano has gone after.
I don't think that's going to happen, because I think Schiano is upfront with his players and his recruits, okay, saying that, you know what, you're going to face a lot of scrutiny here at Rutgers. You're going to get criticized. You're going to fail, and you're going to face adversity. The type of people that we want are the ones who can respond to that, learn from that, and become better for that. And if they don't, then you can send them into the Midwest, into a smaller program where they'll get less scrutiny. But is that preparing you for a life of success? No.
Not a chance.
I think the way Schiano delivers it, and his coaches deliver, I think they deliver it with passion and conviction. And I'm excited for Rutgers. I really am.
Yeah, me too. And another reason I am is because we have a new direction when it comes to sports performance directing. As Jay Butler, who has been the sports performance director here at Rutgers for what would be his 6th season, he's no longer with the program, and Spencer Brown got promoted. So to me, this kind of says that, as we're getting more leeway when it comes to the football program under President William Tate, with that is coming some new faces. We've seen it out of the defensive coordinator tandem. And I believe with all these transfers, there's a new expectation. So why not start anew when it comes to the director of sports performance?
Yeah. And one thing I want to say about the personnel and all the administration at Rutgers is, for Rutgers to get the president of LSU to say, I'm leaving Baton Rouge and I'm coming to New Brunswick, that means he, like the recruits, is sold on the mission of Rutgers, because Tate comes from a school where, whether it's football, baseball, or any other sport, it's national champion or bust. And Jason is 100% right. I got a master's degree from the University of Alabama back in 2020. And I can tell you, from being at Alabama for a couple of years, the media scrutiny of SEC schools, particularly Bama, LSU, even Ole Miss, is almost akin to the media scrutiny of the New York Yankees. And those kids are under intense pressure. So the kids we're getting from the South know what they're facing. But if we're going to be successful as a football program, we got to have kids who have the emotional maturity to be able to handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I wanted to highlight this comment because Butler is a loss when it comes to the players long term, developing them for the NFL. Correct. There have been a lot of guys from Rutgers over the years, the 5, 6 years, especially as director, that have been able to shift to the NFL, get drafted late, or stick around. But when it comes to this program specifically, the performance of this program, I believe that it's a loss initially, but it's a necessity to move on from Butler. He served the players well, but when you look at the program as a whole, this past year we had some moments where we, like Adam said, we could have won 9, 10 games, and we didn't. And you can shift the blame around to whoever you'd like, but ultimately what it comes down to is sports performance. We performed well for 3.5 quarters, but there were several games where we didn't close out. And so I don't mind the initial loss for what could be a long-term gain.
Yeah, and when I was in Alabama, there was a show each week called the Nick Saban Show, where he took calls from fans, and on a couple of shows, I was able to actually call in and speak to him. And I asked him, I said, "How is it that you identify the players with the intangibles that are going to be successful in Alabama?" And his answer was, "You look at the choices that they make on a daily basis.
Mm.
What do they do when nobody's watching? When they don't want to do something, do they do it? Do they make the right choices and decisions every day to put them in a position to be successful?" And that's who we're looking for, because the difference between a 3-star and a 4-star is, honestly quite subjective. You need those players with the hunger, the determination, and the grit to make those right choices every day so that when game day comes, they can be successful.
Yeah.
Jason with another comment there. He said the new guy is supposedly smart with modern science and techniques, so hopefully it works out. Yeah, good comment. I agree.
Seems like it's up Tate's alley for sure.
Yeah.
And last but not least, College Football 26 is coming out in 31 days. And this team has had some ratings be leaked via early game players. So it's interesting to me. It's kind of flip-flopped from what I expect. See, when it comes to the offense, we're only rated a 76. But when it comes to the defense, we're rated an 82. And overall, we're an 82. So to me, it's disrespectful to our offense. But the defense is solid and maybe even slightly generous given its lack of chemistry. What do you think?
I think that the ratings are inaccurate. I think that we should be ranked lower, but I don't put much stock into them.
What would be your rating on offense and your rating on defense?
On offense, I would have us in the high 40s to low 50s, and on defense, yeah,
I was not expecting that.
yeah, and
but for reference, East Carolina University is ranked a 60.
Well, that's my point. I think we're better than East Carolina.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not rankings like 76th. It's 76 overall. So out of 100. Like
so it's not a comparative ranking?
Yeah, nobody clipped that. That's not what he meant.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a comparative ranking of teams.
No. So when I say East Carolina,
so it's like a grade?
Yeah, it's pretty much a grade out of 100.
All right, so let's clarify for those of you who want to clip some segments and make me look bad. I thought this was a traditional ranking comparing teams, which I thought was why it was so inflated.
You didn't play college football 06 growing up? Or not growing up, but you didn't play.
I played Super Mario Brothers, Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong back in the 80s. So I admit that I'm behind the times. What I would say is, if I had to rank the offense, I would say probably at this point 78 to 80, and defense I would put at 68 to 70.
Yeah, see, I'm confused why they think our defense is better than our offense. I've raved about our defense, but that's just because I feel like people sleep on them. But evidently, the developers at EA are not sleeping on our defense. If I
Well,
were,
developers at EA are what they call developers, meaning that they're like what we call experts. And how many times have you seen experts get it
yeah,
wrong?
developers or developmentally, I'm not even going to finish that. So 82 overall on offense would be my rating for the offense, and 81 on defense. Which so it's a little nitpicky on defense, 82 to 81, whatever. I could have easily just said the defense is accurate, but I'm going to be nitpicky and say 82 is a little high in my opinion. But I think the offense disrespect, man. 76. I get that we had 7 points against Wisconsin or the Nebraska game, for example. But that was such a different
You're
offense.
rating us 76 because we lost Monangai, because the offensive
Yeah,
line isn't proven, and because Calais Kamanis, as good as he can be, has been inconsistent. So I could see that.
but you look at the weapons, like the receiving core, the tight ends, the multiple tight ends. We have 2 tight ends that could get 25 catches this year. And Athan can be a top 5 Big Ten quarterback by the time the year is up. He could be a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the nation.
I think
I
he
guess I'm
can
saying
be.
could be.
Yeah,
You're right.
you're right. He can be, but I think what they're going on is what the players have done in the past, and not speculating as what they're likely to do, particularly given Rutgers' schedule. So I think it's pretty accurate. I think it's pretty accurate to say around 76 to 82 for the offense. The defense is very difficult to score because we have a lot of impressive transfers coming in
Yeah,
on the defensive line, like from James Madison from South Florida. We've got Cam Miller from Penn State, Jet Elad from UNLV. The question is that unit going to mesh? So
yeah,
I think the uncertainty is what's causing the hesitation.
yeah. And not to keep dwelling on losses, but losing Teray probably knocks this defense down from an 83 or an 84.
Yeah, we still got Jabome, and
Yep.
he's a stud.
Oh, he is a stud. Just oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that tandem of Teray and Jabome next. Like if we ran a 3-4 and they ran the middle linebackers together, that could have been special.
Just
But
don't blitz on 4th down and 8 against Illinois.
all right. See, what confuses me, right, is if you take the mean of 76 and 82, it's 79. And our special teams is nothing close to special at this point. So how the hell are we in 82 overall? I'm not complaining.
In terms of what? In terms of offense?
In terms of overall as a franchise, as a program.
I think they're making a compromise. I think what they're doing is they're keeping the scores a bit low for offense and defense, but also looking at the potential in the overall score.
That's fair. I guess because our receiving core, for instance, is very young and we are a good recruiting class, perhaps. Yeah, I guess when you look at stuff like recruiting and coaching, it can kind of drive
Well,
it up.
and you also have to consider the historic nature of the Rutgers brand. They're going to be hesitant. And I don't mean that to be negative, but I think that when a team starts to really ascend, there's always cautious optimism. Like, the question is, are they really back? And I think for Rutgers, it's not a question of whether they're back or not. It's a question of how high can they go. And I think with these recruits and what Shiano is building, if he stays here for another 10 years, you're going to see Rutgers ultimately make the college football playoff. And you're going to see Rutgers become a serious contender. Whether Rutgers will become a historically successful program over the next 30, 40 years is going to depend on who replaces Shiano.
So, what do you think? And this is all speculation. What do you think this program could be rated by the announcement of CFB 27? So basically, this time next year, if we're in 82 now.
It depends on how we do this year. I suspect it's going to be somewhere between 85 and 87.
I think our peak for next year is 88, but we could really creep towards. And again, I don't know how Ohio State ranks, or Penn State, or Oregon, or Texas, but we could really be like around a 90 at our.
They're probably the mid 90s, high 90s, but again, what everybody has to realize about all these statistics is that you play football on any given day, and on that day, the probabilities go out the window. You know, it's one-on-one matchups, 11-on-11, and you have to, if on that day,
Yeah.
you play better, you're more polished, and that goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago. Is for Rutgers to be successful and get that 88 ranking, they're going to have polish because they're not good enough to be able to afford mistakes and still win. They're going to have to win time of possession, turnover battle. They're going to have to get 4 yards on first down 65% of the time.
Yeah.
They're going to have to win the field position battle. They're going to have to win those fourth downs in the trenches. So it's going to be the little things for Rutgers are really the big things if they're going to be successful.
So not to sound too much like Woody Johnson's son, but, you know, an 82 overall team, that's no cakewalk for an Ohio State or Oregon or a Penn State. So they're giving us at least the respect of it's not a guarantee that we lose to them.
Well, here's the thing when Rutgers goes to Ohio State. If I was the coach, I would say, look, what's going to happen when you get punched in the mouth in the first quarter? When you see speed that you haven't seen before, when you see 100,000 fans louder than you've experienced, how are you going to react to that if you get down 17-0? Are you going to say, oh, it's Ohio State, let's make this respectable? Or are you going to say,
don't crap your pants.
This is bullshit. We can compete with these guys and become hungrier. There's a difference in people who, when they face adversity, some people get even more determined. Some people do not. When you face failure, some people learn, some people don't. It's going to be those intangibles in Columbus that determine if Rutgers can pull off one of the most shocking upsets in the history of its program.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to not crapping your pants. These guys are all humans, right? Even if they have otherworldly speed or athleticism or physicality, regardless, they're a human. They trained for it. And guess what? You did too. So that's what it comes down to for me is don't let their freak athleticism or skill turn you into a self-doubter.
Well, it doesn't matter.
You're
100% right. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If they run a 4-3, their cornerbacks run a 4-3, or they're freak athletes, because the game is not won simply on athleticism, particularly when the disparity in athleticism is not so substantial. Of course, if you play a weaker team, sure, of course, athleticism wins it. But when the margin for error is small, what wins it are the intangibles. And for Rutgers in Columbus, they have to slow the game down. How did Princeton beat UCLA in basketball? How did Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson in 1990? Okay, how did the Giants beat the Bills in 1990? Okay, there's more to performance than performance itself. It's mindset.
For sure. And that's all I have for the pick updates. Like I said, very long one, 53 minutes. So I'm down to move on now, unless you have any final words on any of these recruits or college football or the new director of sports performance. It's all you to wrap things up.
That was a fantastic pick update, and pick updates will be here each weekend throughout the season. Great information from you, Gabe. Thanks for doing all that research and giving us such great information. Now, we were going to talk about the running back room, C.J. Campbell from FIU, Antoine Raymond, and Jashawn Benjamin. But we're coming up to an hour now. We're going to save that for the next show because we have a really, really in-depth analysis of the running backs and their contributions and the 5 critical factors that are necessary for them to gel with the offense and become.
These birds have a lot to say, too.
Well, I think the birds are just saying how much they like me, but don't misinterpret it.
They're just trying to prove that I am, in fact, outside, and this is not a green screen.
Yeah, exactly. But before we go, and again, we intend to talk about the running backs, but because that's a long discussion and because of the great updates provided by Gabe, we're going to save that for next week. But before we end the show, we're going to welcome our good friend, Austin. Austin, welcome to the show. Always great to hear from you. What's going on, my friend?
Happy Monday, guys. One of my favorite times of the day, calling in on the Rutgers channel and chatting it up. And Gabe, I sympathize with you when it comes to EA Sports College Football, good buddy. They drive me nuts, especially with those animations.
See,
Golly.
I think the gameplay on EA, in terms of CFB, is way better than Madden.
Oh,
I think it's
I
much more
agree.
realistic.
I agree.
What Dave doesn't realize is that the true games that you missed because you were not born yet, you were just a promise, an imagination, a vision,
That was a concept.
are Super Mario Brothers, Zelda, Pac-Man, even Mrs. Pac-Man. You missed out, Gabe. I feel
Paperboy.
Even so. But Gabe, I feel bad for you that you missed the real era of video games. But I'm here if you need me.
Yeah, the graphics were insane.
It's not about the graphics; it's about the skill required. Now you're going to start an argument again, and he's going to start an argument now. I knew you were going to do this. You're upset because you know what? Your New York Knicks. Let me tell you something about your New York Knicks. The fact that they fired that head coach, they're bums. They should have never fired that head coach. That's ridiculous. So you have to go to the finals or you're fired? What coach is going to want to take that job now? They made it a bad situation worse.
Oh, my God.
Let's let Austin
I don't care about the graphics on these video games.
Let's let Austin have some dialogue here.
So,
Calm the F down.
Adam seems to be a little feisty today. Gabe, I don't know what you said or did to him before y'all came on air.
Super Mario Brothers.
I think this generation calls it rage baiting.
It's not rage baiting, okay? I'm not one of these guys who kills somebody over a parking spot. I'm just saying you insulted Super Mario Bros. And said the graphics matter.
I don't know, you're pretty worked up right now.
Oh, brother.
They fire the head coach. This is disgusting. They have no class, all right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I was just trying to give a compliment, just give EA a little criticism. But I will say, though, I did play as Rutgers on the CFP 25. Kyle Manunga's fun to play with.
Oh, yeah.
That dude does not get tackled on the first try. I love playing with him. Now, Ethan, on the other hand, love him to death, but video game Ethan can't throw a pass to save his life sometimes.
He is Jets Geno Smith in EA or in CFP 25.
I'm sorry, but love you, Ethan. Wish you the best, but your video game version is pretty hard.
Jason, by the way, is correct when he says Bill Walsh College Football was the best football video game. See, Gabe, you're living in an era, Generation Z people, no class. Okay.
No.
The 80s,
I meant we may have no class.
90s, that was when it was about. And Austin, I'm sorry that you have to be here for this spat, but Gabe's starting to insult us older people and Super Mario.
One line, you've said 20.
What'd you say?
I've said one line, you've said 20.
No, the fact is your New York Knicks decided to fire
our New York Knicks.
They fired the head coach they had no business doing. Who's going to want to go to the New York Knicks saying, wow, if I don't make the finals, I'm going to get fired too. A bunch of bums. All right. And that's why no class.
When you say your New York Knicks, make sure to say our New York Knicks.
I'm not saying our New York Knicks. You don't fire a head coach for going 6 games with the Pacers who beat the Thunder in game 1. Okay. And then you fire the coach. That's like saying, I published a book. It's only number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. So my agent's never going to hire me again.
Yep.
Your New York Knicks, no class. None.
You know what William Tate IV said? He said, if you're not first, you're last.
You know what? President Tate, please do not be influenced by what Gabe is trying to do. I understand if you're not first, you're last. But
we want Coach Shiano.
If Greg Schiano goes to the playoffs and loses in the national championship game, he may not be first. But guess what? He's number 2, and that ain't bad. And Greg Schiano deserves an extension for that. Your Knicks did.
All right, enough with the Knicks.
You have to help me here.
How you doing, Burks? Nice to see you around. Hope that this kind of chaos doesn't turn you off.
Hold on a second. I know Burks. Burks is a fine person who we always appreciate the commentary from Burks. He's a resident of New York State, loves New York State.
Hello, New Yorker.
So we welcome Burks in this chat. Burks, thanks for showing up.
So to kind of get it, I guess, off Adam's rant about your Knicks, Gabe,
good Lord.
I want to talk about the recruiting. And because from what I'm hearing from you, Gabe and Adam, is Rutgers has been busy this offseason. They've been out there tootling and picking up people from all over the place. They haven't just been sitting on their lump, resting on their laurels of we're going to go 6-6, 7-5, and that's all there is to it. They are trying to. Yes, they're trying to get better. They're taking players from everywhere. They're picking from each state, North Carolina, Georgia's. And I like to see that in a program like a Rutgers because it gives me hope that college football is not dying. It gives me hope that there is a future, that there will be competition beyond Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, that maybe a Rutgers or a Washington again can maybe make a statement in the Big Ten that we're here to stay. So I'm glad Rutgers is hitting home runs.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Indiana did last year. And to a degree, Notre Dame, even though they're much respected, they were the joke in that everyone was like, they'll choke when it counts, and they made it to the championship game. So I think that Rutgers ultimately, if Indiana can make the playoffs last year, I don't see what's stopping us from it being possible this next year.
Well, I'm going to explain why this is a great comment by Austin. Okay, and let's forget about the Knicks. What they did to their head coach is a disgrace. But here's the thing: the NCAA just entered into a settlement agreement in a lawsuit.
Yes.
In which they agreed that each school would only have $20 or $20.5 million to pay players, and that schools could directly pay players. My problem with this settlement and with NAL generally is that what it does is it creates almost a monopoly whereby the Texas, Oregon, Ohio States can pay millions to players and shut out the teams who don't have that wealth, who don't have the collectives with the donors who are just giving millions of dollars. So it does not create any fair competition. So what's going to happen is that college football is going to be dominated by the wealthiest schools who just buy players. I think that's a problem, Austin. I don't like it, and I think it's bad for college football.
I would like to counter that, if I could.
Well, why don't you explain why the Knicks fired their head coach first?
Well, I don't want to get into that. We're talking about college football here. I don't have any answers for that.
Boy, you really got under my skin. Austin,
I don't know what I said.
Trying to be nice, and you start insulting me.
Now let me talk about why Rutgers is still in the mix. They're still in the mix because of President Tate. You know who he is? He is the Steve Cohen of college presidents. He is that good when it comes to his genius, his level of commitment to sports, particularly football. We saw it at LSU, and we're going to see it at Rutgers. So, sure, this does look like it's a disadvantage for us moving forward, but I don't believe that's the case when it comes to our staff under Coach Shiano and under President Tate, and the fact that we just got a new director of sports performance. I think we're actually in good shape after this conclusion, I should say. I think we're going to be up there moving forward because we're not afraid to spend anymore. The days of being afraid to spend are over. And you can thank President Tate, you can thank Coach Shiano, and you can thank our recruiting class of 2026 for setting the standard.
I agree with you in part, but here's the thing: most colleges don't have $20.5 million to pay players, especially when they have to make sure that they don't discriminate against women's sports and raise the Title IX problem.
Yeah.
So what we're going to have is these big schools getting the best players because they can pay them more, which means only these schools are going to be in competition for national championships. And that's not what college football should be about. And I think it's a problem, an antitrust violation. And I don't see how Rutgers competes with that. What do you think, Austin?
So my thing is, too, I know we're looking at this from the college football perspective, but think about this. It's going to affect all of the sports. Look at the Kansases and the Dukes of the world. They're loving this for basketball. Like, for them, they're like, if we do good at football, we'll take it. But basketball is where we strive, where we make our money. Whereas Rutgers, they're more of, they've had a good to decent basketball program over the years, but they put their money into the football. And so I think that's where this becomes a problem for me, is how do we even it out where all sports get it the same? Rutgers, you get 10 million for football. Rutgers basketball, you get 10 million. Or we get 5 million, 5 million, 5 million across the board for every sport, where it's not just affecting one sport or the other.
Well, I mean, we know how Moneyball works, right? In baseball, at least, that you don't need, like, there's no salary cap in baseball. You can spend as much as you want or as little as you want. And I think that sort of philosophy can translate into football too, where as long as you find players that will limit the turnovers or get the tackles, not miss the tackles, or stick to their coverages, that should bode well. And I think that our scouting class is ultimately responsible for that, among President Tate, obviously, too. But yeah, I think that, it looks like on paper we're in a bad spot, but I don't think that means we're out of it.
Well, I think here, Austin, you raised a real good issue, which is that with 20.5 million as the cap, these schools are going to have to decide: are we a basketball school, a football school, or a baseball school? Because if they divvy it up evenly, then they are defeating the very advantage that $25.5 million gives you, which is, if you want to be just a football school, you're going to be able to buy recruits that many other schools, except maybe 5 or 6, will be able to compete for. If you divvy it up, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, because you can be sure Texas is going to say we're a football school. You can be sure that Alabama is going to say we're a football school. So that means two things. Schools are probably going to self-define themselves and prioritize a certain, sport to make sure they're competitive, and that will be at the detriment of other sports. And I think that's going to raise further lawsuits, especially from women's sports under Title IX. So it creates a situation where you can have a monopoly, but that monopoly is going to invite lawsuits, or you create a situation where they divvy it up evenly, and then it creates parity among most schools, which they're not going to want. So they're going to choose the former, and it's going to be problematic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is far from over. I don't necessarily think it's a step in the right direction, but it's a step towards trying to figure something out. Granted, it's going to be like the Articles of Confederation and prove that we need something different, but at least the philosophy is there that this isn't over.
And here's the thing, too. What I want to say to this is, too, that's what concerns me, because I love watching all sports. Baseball, basketball, football. I love it all. I'm an all-sport kind of guy. And for me, watching Rutgers, I wish Rutgers would just divvy it up. I mean, because I want Rutgers being good in all sports. I want them to be a fantastic baseball program, volleyball, field hockey. I want them to do all of it. I want them to be great at all of it, because it ensures the healthiness of our sport going forward. And I feel like this here, to your point, Adam, may be the detriment of it all. Because you're going to have the Bamas, you're going to have the Texases who are like, our basketballs are good, our baseballs are subpar, but our footballs is where our money comes in at. We need to put 18 million of it here, and then the 2 million the others can fight over. Whereas Kansas and Duke, they'll be, our football programs are but hey, our basketball programs, that's where our money comes in at. So let's give it all to Bill Self and John Shire over here, so we ensure our basketball is still alive and well. And that's where the detriment comes in at, the greediness, in my
Austin,
opinion.
I think you raise a great point, but here's what I think is going to happen. The Texases, the Ohio States, the top schools, they are not going to divvy up anything, because it would defeat the competitive advantage that 20.5 million gives them. They're going to say, hey, if we put 18 million into football, we're going to be able to outbid everybody but, say, 5 or 6 schools and get the top recruits and shut everyone out. Hey, our other programs might suffer, but they're not the ones who are generating revenue, and they're not the ones who are on a national stage. So they're never going to give up their competitive advantage. If they divvied it up equally, they would be forfeiting the very advantage that the settlement gives them. And that's the problem with this, is it's going to allow the top schools to basically have a monopoly over the 5 stars and some of the 4 stars, and that's wrong, and that raises antitrust issues.
So what would you have a solution in mind?
My solution?
Yeah.
My solution would be, number one, you're going to treat these players as employees, and they will sign a contract governing duration of their employment and their salary. And I would cap any amount of money that you could give to a player at $1 million. I wouldn't cap.
That's fair.
I wouldn't cap. See, where I think they're going wrong is in the aggregate amount. I don't care about the aggregate amount that a university could pay, say $20, $30 million. I care about the amount they could pay to an individual player. That's where I would have the cap.
And I don't think you should limit, say, sponsorships either. We're talking strictly university.
And real quick, I want to add to your point, Adam, before you go on, because I think this is important to bring up. The next problem with that is you're going to have those players who are going to be divas and be like, oh, you didn't give me $10 million? Well, guess what? I'll go over here now, and I'll go over here because they're going to give me X amount of dollars because you won't. That, to me, is where I think that's going to go wrong. I like where your head's at, Adam, but we have too many divas now in this in this sport.
You raise a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. You know what my response is to these divas? F you.
Yeah.
You have not proven yourself for one play on a Division I college football field. Now, you getting $1 million as an 18-year-old recruit is incredible. But now, if you want to go somewhere else where they're going to give you $1 million, you can do that. But you're going to have to consider other factors now, like the quality of the education, which is going to help you as a person when you can't play football anymore, and where you want to be, and the cultural fit. And those are the factors I think that should govern rather than money talking, because what message are we giving to these young kids?
Yeah. Hey, how do you guys feel about adding Burks to this conversation? I know we usually do like individual, but I feel like he has some good stuff to say.
That's up to our special guest, Austin.
Mr. Austin, is that okay with you?
Yeah, come on in. The more the merrier. We welcome all opinions. I love all opinions.
How are you? Oh, Mr. Burks just left right as I add him and we hype him up. It's okay, Burks. If you ever want to come back on, you're more than welcome.
Let me tell you something about Burks. Burks is a very good man from the great state of New York. Always has intelligent commentary on the voice of college football. But the facts that Burke made an entrance and an exit, hey, sometimes that's what gets controversial. Austin, I want to hear your thoughts on my proposal.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, what's up, man? First time on the show. Yeah, what's up?
Well, it's great to have Austin and Burks on the show. Burks, it's nice to talk to you. How's it going, my friend?
How's it going? You guys both Rutgers fans, or just you are a Rutgers fan, Gabriel?
I mean, we're both Rutgers fans. I know, Adam, you say you went to USC also.
Yeah.
But...
I did go to USC from 1993 to 1997, but I'm from New Jersey. I always loved Rutgers.
Okay, all right. So you basically root for both, really, right?
Yes.
That's cool, man. Yeah, no, I just want to say the NIL stuff, man. We didn't accomplish shit, man. I'm sorry to say it. It's cool that now the NCAA is paying, they have a budget, but the issue is I was on Jeffrey's show yesterday, and he was just saying, the cap can increase, and then the guys can make more, and then not only that too, it's the boosters are not eliminated completely. If the boosters were eliminated completely, then this could have been a celebration, because no more of this $4 or $5 million a year crap, or $3 million a year like Bryce Underwood. But I don't know, man. I feel like we didn't really it's okay, but it's not. It didn't really solve the problem that we have.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also go ahead.
And the thing too with that is, Burks, I want to say, I'm okay if you're giving a little extra money to a player that is a junior or senior, and then has kind of earned it of hey, I've been loyal to you all, and I have been consistently good for y'all, and I've provided you all the bill of goods. I'm okay with you saying, here's another $2 million, you've earned it, we trust you, let's go to work again. But what bothers me with it is kind of like what Adam is, these freshmen coming in are thinking they're hot stuff when they haven't even played a snap yet. That's when I'm like, okay, dude, let's chill out. You're not the second coming of Jesus here. Let's calm down.
To counter that, I know financially it's still a problem, but I think these freshmen are probably humbled enough by their hazing, wouldn't you say?
So, so see, here's the problem, Austin. Gabe is arguing against Rutgers. He believes the system and the settlement is a good thing, which is going to hurt Rutgers.
It's not a good thing. It's just a thing.
Gabe, I don't know why you're
I think
doing that. I thought you were a Rutgers fan. It
I
seems
think
like
a thing is better than nothing because nothing was what was happening beforehand, and everyone was complaining about it. So I think
this
it's
isn't
not
better
a
than
good
nothing.
thing, but it's a thing, and it's not a step in the right direction, but it's a step. And
This is
ultimately,
basically
steps
memorializing the problem in writing. It's not. And
it's showing that there are attempts at trying to solve it, even if they are bad attempts.
Yeah, and bad attempts are often worse, and bad solutions are often worse. And
I would say
raises this point. They've always had a monopoly. That's the problem. It shuts out Rutgers. It shuts out, Miami of Ohio. It shuts out the Oregon States. It shuts out, the Vanderbilts, who don't have the kind of money. And when these schools like Texas say we're going to do 18 million and give Arch Manning 3 million or Bryce Underwood 10 million, other schools don't have a shot. And that's why they're not going to divvy up the money, because they're not going to give up what is now a monopoly that you will see in college football. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to get upset about it. I love Gabe, but you know.
Oh.
And here's another thing I want to add to it as well. And you all can agree or disagree with this, but we got to remember the media rights deals were written in this too. So the media deals, they could pitch in some of this money. So if they want a certain team to succeed, they could be like, hey, we want Michigan to succeed. We're going to throw in a 10 million bonus here for you, Michigan.
That's messed up. That's where the problem lies. The media having a say, that's messed up. It's like, I mean, it's basically like saying in politics, like if the media wanted a certain president who would fund them more or lobby harder, let's accept some of that money and campaign that they're better. That's kind of how this is sounding. It's sounding like lobbying could be in play here too.
Well, and Jason O brings up a great point. They've always had a monopoly. That's exactly my point. All this does is memorialize and writing the monopoly. No system is going to help Bowling Green and UAB out-recruit Bama and Georgia. And that is a problem, okay? That is a problem. That's why, for example, when you want to fly somewhere, airlines aren't allowed to charge $2 because if they did, it would shut out the market. And antitrust is all about market competition. There is no competition. And when Jason O says they've always had a monopoly, that's right, but that's also wrong and should be remedied, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, guys. Burks, am I wrong? Austin, am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong, Adam. And another thing too is to remember is like Jason O is saying, unless it's your absolute dream to play at that lower level school, then more than likely the higher level schools are going to win out almost 99.9% of the time, whether we like it or not. Unless it's your dream to play at a UAB or a Western Kentucky for whatever reason.
So, Burks, you're a Michigan fan?
Yeah, diehard, man. Been since I was like 10, Notre Dame was the first school I ever knew, to tell you the truth, but because I was born in the Chicago area, but diehard Michigan fan, yeah.
So, I'm sure that it's interesting that you agree with us and put your bias aside then, because surely this deal does help Michigan in the long run, unfortunately, for smaller schools.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does. But it's just that here's the problem. I want like a fair, like all schools are fair. The only way to do this is destroy the boosters. Boosters are not allowed to give money, right?
Yeah.
They only like the NIL, like only if like let's say Nike or something, they sign a deal. Okay, sure. Those are like out of like third party, right? But no boosters. Okay, we're done with boosters. No, like this guy's gonna fund you. This has to all be eliminated. And then for the Power Five schools, every single school gets the same budget. That's the only way. So it's like if you're gonna pay, so like let's say like SMU and all these D1, like these Power Four, let's just say Power Four, they all get Rutgers, all these schools. Rutgers gets the same exact budget as Michigan. Like that's the only way to do it. Like, for NIL money to make it a fair playing field. I want it to be a fair playing field, I don't want it to
Yeah.
be any of this crap where it's like this gets more, like Michigan, Ohio State get way more than Rutgers money and stuff like that.
So there's
That's
two directions that this
yeah,
conversation can be taken. And
yeah.
the first one is in terms of every school having the same amount of money. There's obvious reasons why certain higher powers within college football and the NCAA wouldn't want that to happen. And it's because Alabama getting the same amount of money as, say, like Tulane, for instance, um, it sort of comes down to the interest in the sport in that regard. Like for the viewers, would you watch Tulane or Alabama if they had the same roster? You'd watch
That's
Alabama.
But
that's a
exactly,
great
no.
point,
But
Gabe.
Here's the thing, right? Is that what was I saying? So they all get the same budget. The university like pays that, like everyone's 20 mil, 20 mil. Let's just say that. But I guess you could say that if a school is generating more money and more media from the conference, let's say, and is making more money, the university keeps that money. It won't go to the athletic department for NIL. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to like say like everyone gets the same like budget, like NIL, like budget they can use on their players, but schools can make more money than other schools. Like Alabama, Michigan, all these schools can make way, way more, right? It's just that the university gets to keep the money.
Yeah, I
And it
guess
won't go to the budget, like the NIL budget is what I'm trying to
it's a
say.
fair counter. Just because
Yeah.
obviously the incentive would still be there for players to win and succeed anyway, just because they want to go further. So I guess I kind of understand that part.
Well,
Yeah.
Brooks, you raise a great point, but here's a couple of problems that I have. Okay, number one, when you're telling schools that they all get $20.5 million to pay directly to players, schools are going to allocate that differently and maintain their competitive advantage, like at Texas. Okay. Number two, what I think the problem is that you shouldn't be focusing on the aggregate that you're giving to a school. You should be capping what you can give to individuals as recruits. That's going to create
That's it.
more of a competitive marketplace. And number three, even with this settlement and this cap of 20.5 million, you're not eliminating the collectives, which are going to create a huge disadvantage and essentially a monopoly in college football. Now, as I understand NIL, it meant that if a player wanted to have an autograph session and charge $100 per jersey, they could do that. If they wanted to do a commercial, if they wanted to endorse a product, they could. But these collectives have essentially become cash cows that pay students for nothing. So this settlement doesn't do anything because schools are going to disproportionately weigh football and shut out other schools, and there's no cap on the individual amount you can pay a person. That's why Bryce Underwood left LSU for Michigan. And great that you have Bryce Underwood, but it was all about money, and that to me is the problem.
I mean, name,
Great
image,
comment, Brooks.
and likeness, not performance or talent, right?
And you
It's
know
not
what's sad?
NILTP, it's NIL. So I agree. The university should not be paying the player. It should be based on outside jersey sales or commercials.
Yeah,
I
I
agree,
don't
Dave,
know.
100%.
I agree on that part as well, actually. It's just such a complicated like mess. Like it's just so hard to like
So
even it's just like they made it really into shit. I'm sorry to say that. Like
Yeah, Brooks, I agree. Austin, what do you think?
here's what I think, and I don't know if this would help or hurt anything. So if they want to create this cap space, then let's go all the way with it. Let's be like the NFL, since that's what we're trying to be here. So if I was to pay Adam $17 million to come play at the University of Rutgers, and then I'm looking at Gabe over here, and I say, "Oh, Gabe's about worth the same, if not a little more," and I want to pay Gabe that.
Oh, okay, I'll take it.
No.
Finally, I get some
Here's my
credit
point.
around here.
But here's my point, though. But we're at a cap, though. I'm paying both of you a large amount of money. So here's what we do. It hurts you going into the next season financially. So you may have to be like, Gabe outperformed you, Adam. I don't want to pay you $17 million a year, so you're cut and enter the transfer portal. Like, I think we should go all the way like that.
But
I don't know if that helps or hurts us.
I'm going to take my talents somewhere else because they're offering me more money. And not that I would do that, but that's the problem that these smaller universities have.
But what lesson are we teaching these kids?
Yeah.
At 18, 19 years old, they should be learning perseverance, overcoming adversity, dealing with failure. And I got to ask you guys, Burks and Austin, I'll ask you this. Arch Manning is a multimillionaire. What in God's name has Arch Manning done to be a multimillionaire? Nothing.
I mean, what's funny about that example, because yeah, on the field, Quinn Ewers was the guy, but like merchandise wise, people were probably getting his jersey more than any other quarterback probably in football last year, maybe besides Shador Sanders.
That's what I'm saying, Adam. It's because of Arch Manning, how they think he's gonna be the next big thing. It's the endorsements is the reason why he's a multimillionaire. You know what I'm saying? It's these. That's the reason why he's probably made close to 10 mil. I would say in these past like 2 years
But
in
is it really the
NIL.
endorsements, or is it just that the collective paid him that money to come there?
I think it's the endorsements, dude, because
I mean, it's
apparently
definitely both.
college basketball, like football, paid him 100K just to be on that, like just to like be in the game, man. 100,000 he got, Arch Manning, when everyone was getting much less, you know. So I don't know, dude. I think it is endorsements, dude, because he's getting a lot of endorsements. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, that's a
Like
fair point.
Fanatics apparently paid, or Panini, they can pay guys like 1.5, 2 million for 3 years, you know. It's crazy, man. Endorsements, you can make so much you don't understand.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So it's
And
probably
and
endorsements more. Yeah.
my thing is with that is I don't have a problem if they want to pay someone for that because they are working hard for it. You have to put in the work. You know your image is on the video game cover or on the magazine cover. You are in the Gatorade commercial. I don't mind you getting a little residual from that. I'm fine with that. You earn that money. You do what you want with it. But where I come in and like you said, Adam, the rest of it, I'm just kind of like, is it because you're a Manning? Is that why you're getting paid all this big money? That's where my
Yeah,
problem
I mean,
lies.
Yeah, I mean,
Arch Manning has how many plays as he had on a Division I college football field, and this guy's a multimillionaire, and these
double
schools
digits.
now have $20.5 million to disproportionately shut out every other Division I school except maybe in Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's the way college football should be. Bryce Underwood was committed to LSU, but then Michigan decides our collective is going to buy him out. And he goes. Number one, what lesson is that teaching kids? And number two, what values are we teaching? And number three, is that how we want college football to be, where the highest bidder wins championships? Not in my world. But Gabe, you disagree, and I guess you don't like college football.
No, I was actually going to say the difference is that, I was mentioning baseball earlier as sort of a comparison because of the unlimited salary cap or limited pay if an owner sucks or is cheap. But when it comes to baseball, they have a farm system to make up for that. In college football, there's no farm system. There's a recruiting system. And the recruiting system is also driven by money now. And so you don't pay the minor leaguers millions of dollars in baseball. They earn $20,000, $30,000 if they're lucky. And they grind it out for 1 to 2 years. And so that's what it ultimately comes down to is there's no backup to money in college football. There's no other way to bring someone in besides culture. And, thankfully Rutgers, we have a school that is built on culture at the time being and can instill these values on these 3-star prospects and the occasional 4-stars such as Jared Smith. But there's nothing in the world stopping a 5-star from going to another university for $5 million more for all we know.
Gabe, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But the problem is that 95% or 99% of players are going to go for the money. Yep. And especially if they come from poor families, which I understand that. But what values are we teaching these kids? And what fair market competition are we creating for schools like Rutgers, who, yes, are relying on culture and development, but at the end of the day, they're not going to get the recruits because they can't afford it. That's wrong if we believe in fair market capitalism. And that's the problem.
And what I want to say is to this, guys, I want to bring this up because guess who's sitting back licking their chops? Notre Dame. Like, not only do they now can get a bye in the playoffs, but guess what? Now that this has come down, Notre Dame's independent. They not only get TV money, they also get this, plus what they have on top of it. Notre Dame's just sitting back thinking, you're making our world a whole lot easier. They don't have to worry about paying a conference. They
Until
don't have to worry
Austin,
about.
that's not Austin. Notre Dame still makes less money than Michigan and these schools just because they're not in the conference. They make more when they actually make it to like a championship of college football playoffs. That's when they start to make their money. You know what I'm saying? Like they actually make
I
less,
got you.
believe it or not. You know?
Oh, so Burks,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. So Notre Dame starts making their money
Yeah.
when they win championships, make the college football playoff. Arch
That's when they
Manning
start.
is making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Bryce Underwood made $10 million for what?
Yeah, no, he doesn't deserve. And you come back to, I need to tell you something crazy too. Even I think Gabriel, I think you might have heard of this, but Cooper Flag made 28 million off NIL from endorsements of New
Yep.
Balance and Fanatics. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's
Yeah, I
crazy, and
heard of
that's the thing. That's the problem. So Cooper Flag, right? They sold on him. New Balance, Fanatics. They knew he's gonna be the next star, and I understand why they did it, right? With some of these schools like basketball, Duke's NIL approaches, we're not going to give you a number like that. You will go when you come to our basketball program, the NIL, the endorsement deals will start to come. They don't give a crazy number to you guys to get recruits like that. Like, you know, and so that's what they did with Cooper Flag and all
Yeah.
of these 5 stars. And so it's paying off. So like I feel like some schools, you know, like basketball schools, that's what they're aiming at more than football. With football, it's like, because here's the thing with basketball, it's like, you know, endorsements are like these Nike, New Balance and stuff. It's you can actually make more with basketball NIL than football. I'm sorry to say that. You know, like
I mean,
like
peak for peak, you're right. It's just on average, football probably pays more.
And,
exactly,
and
exactly.
to,
They pay more in terms of like more players, but the highest football and the highest basketball who makes NIL, the basketball would make much more.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
mhm.
You know.
And to add to
Yeah.
your point, Bergs, is Cooper Flag making that money? That's most players' NBA career in terms of how much money some of them can
Oh,
make,
yeah.
what they max
Yeah,
out
and
at.
that's all off endorsements. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and you know what?
Like,
Jason O raised a great point when he said,
Yeah.
look, how can you declare them employees and then tell them how much
Oh,
they can pay?
yeah.
Well, in let's say law or medicine, when you get hired as a doctor or lawyer, sure, any law firm can pay you what they want, but the thing is that there's 500 other law firms that are going to try to pay them the same thing. Here in college football, there's a huge disparity in what can be paid, which allows these people to just 5 or 6 schools dominate the market, and that's not competition. Now, sure, they can make money from endorsements, they can make money in other ways, but they can do the same thing at any other school. So there's not that competitive disadvantage in that context. That's my point. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Oscar,
know
what
what
do
you're
you
saying.
think? Either of you.
I just feel like more schools need to do that approach where, you know, like the endorsements will come to you, but I guess, you know, recruits are not like that patient these days. They just
You're
want
saying like incentives, like you sort of like an incentive driven NFL contract, right? Where you get
yeah.
like 6 figures, but you can make 1 or 2 million if you have an all Big Ten type of year, or if we
That's
somehow creep into
exactly how NIL should be. Exactly how it is. Should be by performance and not this crap of, oh,
yeah.
he hasn't proved anything. That's exactly what NIL should be. And that's why I'm kind of like disappointed with NIL, to tell you the
I
truth.
totally agree with
I hear
you.
you. What about you, Austin?
It should be by fucking performance, dude. It's like you know, like when you're doing a job, right? Like you're gonna get promoted, right? And you make more money. That's how it should be. Like it should be like the
so,
real world, but it's not. That's the sad part, you know. Life ain't fair at
so
the end of the day,
So,
you know.
Birch, I get where you're going with that, and I agree with you. So, for
Yeah.
example, Jamal Murray, he signed a big extension, I believe it was last off season. But in his contract, if he makes an all NBA team, he gets X amount of dollars for doing that. And I like where your head's at, because let's say, for instance, you sign a player to 10 million. You could put in that if you make a second all team Big Ten, we'll add another 2 million to that. I agree with that.
I don't agree that you should be allowed to pay a player $10 million before they step foot on the field.
No,
Because
I agree.
if you can do that, then Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Georgia have a monopoly.
I mean, the problem is we might have to assume that it's going to be allowed.
And here's the thing: Michigan was doing it that way. They were doing it that way. Like they weren't giving a number like, oh, guaranteed. And then after that, they did such bad recruiting in 2023 and 2024, right? To the point where then they were like, okay, desperate times come for desperate measures. Let's just give our whole NIL money to Underwood. That's what they were doing that way. They were doing it actually the right way. Like even though like these days, we're being called cheaters and stuff with the sign stealing crap, we were actually doing something the right way, to tell you the truth, So,
but let me ask you something, Burks.
Yeah.
Does this hurt Michigan in any way by giving all that money away? Does it set them back at all?
Well, here's the thing: this deal with Underwood was actually on a billionaire. Billionaire funded it, so it doesn't really hurt Michigan in terms of NIL money because it was a booster who did it, but. If apparently there's something where like the boosters, they're like cutting out, like they're tracking down people who did that when the new NCAA deal is happening, like the new NIL deal. So like apparently boosters' monies, players may not get their contract or not, but I don't know. I'll have to see what happens, and that's why Ohio State fans are like, "Oh, Underwood's not coming to Michigan because of this stuff like that." And he's going to go to LSU because the money will, like the deal will break off. It's like some crap like that. But no, it's not going to hurt Michigan in terms of NIL like that,
And another question I wanted to ask is, too, in regards to this. So we all remember the famous Travis Hunter flip from Florida State, right, to Jackson State.
Yep.
Do we think that will ever happen again with this new rule, that a player of that caliber will do that?
Yeah, I
think
it depends on team strengths and weaknesses because it'll be sort of systematically allocated too, where the financial aspect is the number one reason, but teams are going after because they have a need in a certain position and they already spent their money on their quarterbacks or their tight ends. And they say, hey, we don't have a wide receiver one. Oh, wait, this guy can also play on the other side of the ball. That's related to Travis Hunter. But when it comes to a positional need, you're going to spend more on a position that you don't have, and that will cause flips, such as the Travis Hunter one.
Because to me, like that was historic when that happened. That made news that Travis Hunter flipped from a Florida State to Jackson State, and with the way this new situation's set up, it's hard for me to envision a world where that will happen again.
Why that seems like.
Because a lot of it was because of Dion too, but I believe it was because of positional need as well, like what Gabe was saying. But I believe a lot of it was Dion.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. The problem is that's never going to happen. It's a one-off in my opinion.
You don't think it's going to happen?
Because they're going to go for the money, and the schools with the most money are going to monopolize the market. I mean, Austin, what do you think?
I agree too. I'm in the boat with you, Adam. I don't think it's going to happen again. I think that's a very, very rare occasion. You have to have that special connection on that deep level with that player like Travis Hunter had with Deion Sanders.
I mean, I think that it can happen again. Sorry, I'm just going to say this one thing. I think it can happen again just because of how much money Deion would bring to Jackson State. It'll have to come down to a coach or a quarterback, really. Coming to a university, deciding to change a whole program. So that's the instance I can think it will happen. And I'm surprised it didn't happen more with Coach Belichick.
Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to say to it too, Gabe, is, and I don't want to just Jackson State, but let's use Rutgers for example. Like if someone's committed to Bama and then they're like, oh, I really like Shiano, let's flip it. I don't know that we'll ever see that, or flip it to a Washington, or someone's committed to a Michigan and then want to flip to a Indiana. I don't think we'll see that as often, or if all ever again, with this new setup.
I think what this system does is reinforce what's been going on for years. And quite frankly, I miss college football from the 80s when it was an amateur sport, when athletes got scholarships to attend these amazing universities for free and went on to the NFL, which in and of itself, a scholarship is a lot of money. Now it's about What values are we teaching these players? Oh, you're going to go to the place that gives you the most money? What about when you encounter adversity? You're going to go into the transfer portal. When you encounter failure, you're going to go into the transfer portal or go to the highest bidder. What kind of young people are we raising to be good players, but also good people in life?
See, I just feel like this. Like Mike Tomlin says, "F it, I'm gonna go coach at Pitt. It's in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers aren't going anywhere. They've been 9-8 forever." You don't think anyone from Penn State is gonna be like, "Let me drive a few hours west and commit there instead"?
I think there would be a chance based off his pedigree. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Gabe. That could absolutely be a happening, but it's going to take that one special mega coach or a level type like a Mike Tomlin, a Bill Belichick, or a Deion Sanders for that to happen. And this is no shot, but a Kurt Zanetti's not going to get someone to flip to his school if they're at a Bama or at a Michigan or at a Penn State. It's not going to happen.
I hear you.
Here's what I'll say. It'll help schools like your school a lot, this new NIL stuff, right? It'll help your school. It'll help Austin's school, with that stuff. That's for sure, with this new NIL stuff, this new law. So.
Well, guys, this was an awesome discussion. I mean, keep going. Any final thoughts? Because we've got to end the show shortly, but any final thoughts from both of you?
I will say one more thing I wanted to bring up on this, and this is kind of interesting, is how do we think this will affect the head coaches going forward? Because now the head coaches they get connections with these players. They almost treat them like their family. And the second something goes wrong and they bench them, like let's say a player throws 3 picks and Coach Shiano decides, hey, it's not your night, sit down. Are they going to be like, okay, he's doing this because it's tough love, or is he doing it because he hates me and I'm transferring out of here? I'm better than you. I want to know how that affects the landscape. The coaches, how do they approach this?
I guess only time will tell.
Well, I think the problem, and you raise a good point, Austin, is that the coaches are in a position now where they just can't coach anymore. They have to be managing these kids, and they have to be managing them from a standpoint of, we don't want them to go someplace else where they're going to get more money and everything. So it makes the job of coaching much more difficult, and it dilutes the value of coaching for these players when these external considerations that have nothing to do with promoting values among these kids takes precedent. And I think that's a problem. And that's not the kind of generation I think we should be raising, because it's not just football. It's about what values are we teaching these kids.
I think it's you're not a coach. You're more so a campaigner. You're campaigning for the program and you're campaigning for the school. You're trying to play this game of how do I make everybody like me instead of some love me and some hate me.
No, it's like corporation at this point, dude. It's like they're doing the best thing for themselves. And listen, they're gonna tell the players, dude. They're gonna tell everyone in the first day, like, hey, you could have the job and you could lose it the next week, and we don't care. This is like because you need to understand these head coaches. They need to make the university happy so they can keep their job. They can make their money. They're gonna have to, do backstabs and stuff like that, like saying. Like they shouldn't be like, oh, you'll be the starter for the season and then we bench you for like the rest of the season. They shouldn't be saying that, but they should be telling these guys like, hey, listen, my job is on the line every year. We have to do a good season. And I think a lot of these players are going to have to understand that hey, this isn't like some fun and game like family type stuff. This is basically like a business, like a corporation type stuff,
Well, that's the problem. That's exactly right. And it's like you see it in academia today, where students are treated like customers rather than students. So it makes the coach's job or the professor's job miserable, because they're trying to accommodate their every need rather than focus on teaching them what they need to do to be successful in life.
And I want to bring this
America,
up.
Life, like culture now is basically everything's like a corporation now these days,
So
that's how it is.
To your point, Burks, and to your point, Adam, and to kind of tie it back to yours too, Gabe, Nick Saban was a perfect example of this. Everybody remembers the famous Hurts to Tua switch, right? Tua throws the pass, wins the natty. He becomes a hero, and he's got the starting job next year. And Jalen Hurts didn't transfer at first. He was there. But Tua got hurt, and Jalen comes back in and leads them on a comeback to win the SEC. And Nick Saban even said, I know it hurt Jalen on some level, but he trusted me enough to let me do that. Let me do my job. And I feel like, Adam, that's what we've lost, is we need a coach like Nick Saban that can get through the players' heads. It's nothing personal. It's just a business, like you're saying, Bergs. We're trying to win. I love you, but some nights it's not your night, kid.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Shiano because I think Shiano can really implement that sort of Saban mentality this year moving forward. It's just whether or not a player wants to buy it.
I agree totally with Gabe, and that's what Nick Saban did at Alabama. He wasn't running the business, or he wasn't paying millions to players. He was teaching them how to be the best players they could be and the best people they can be, and that's what attracted them. And I think Rutgers is doing that too. But I think all of this money and all of this domination by the wealthiest schools sends a terrible message to young people and creates a very unfair market for schools like Rutgers.
I agree. And it's unfortunate too, because like I told you, I love watching Rutgers succeed. It's nice to see the smaller schools succeed, but we're going at a pace where Rutgers is going to be, maybe it's stink. It's just going to be 2 super leagues, and there's teams like Rutgers and the Louisvilles of the world at Pitts just waving, looking like, hey, don't forget us, guys.
I agree, guys. Well, listen, this has been an awesome discussion. We've got to end the show. So any final thoughts? We hope to see you guys every week at 7 because you're both great comments.
No, man. It was fun, actually. I really like this show. I'm not going to lie. Talking to guys from the East Coast. You're from you're from Gabe. You're from New York, or
yeah,
you live there?
Westchester County, New York, but I currently reside just outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, nice, Westchester County. That's literally where my grandma used to live. She lived in Sleepy Hollow, if you know this town.
Nice, yeah. I'm from Croton on Hudson.
Oh, that's cool, man. Oh, love it.
Just around the corner.
Yeah, I love it. That's cool. But no, thank you guys, Adam. Thank you, my favorite New Jersey guy. And even though New Jersey's trash. And thank you, Gabe. Nice meeting you.
Thanks for coming on the show, my friend.
Handshake to you.
Yeah, take care, man.
Yep. And Austin from Kentucky, always thrilled to have him on the show. Burke's thrilled to have him on the show. Thanks so much, guys, for a wonderful conversation and really some great points. Our good friends, calling into the show every week. We hope that everybody, if you like the show, please hit that like and subscribe button. And look, we're going to be here every Monday at 7 p.m. getting ready for the season. And when the season starts, you can expect some amazing shows. And I will give you a hint, some amazing guests. Gabe, any final thoughts?
Well, you can still see me out here just barely. So I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are a major part of the show. If you have anything fun to say, anything controversial to say, anything about Rutgers college football at all, tune in Monday at 7 p.m. every Monday and give a call into the show because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and Jason, thanks so much as always for your great comments. We'll be seeing you guys here on next Monday at 7 p.m., if not sooner, pending updates from Rutgers football. Thanks so much for being here. Go Scarlet Knights.
Go Scarlet Knights.